Hello, and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Monday, July 29th. Hopefully, everybody is having a good day so far today. This is episode 338 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those of you tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Appreciate all of the support as always. Today was day number 5 of New York Jets training camp after a day off yesterday on Sunday. The first 4 practices were no pads, and today things got a little bit more real as the end of July is here and the start of August is right around the corner. The pads came on this afternoon at One Jets Drive. I will give you my takeaways, all of the information, and the biggest news and notes from today's practice. We will break it all down. I will be in attendance tomorrow, so I will have my in-person takeaways tomorrow from day number 6. But before that happens, we got to get through day number 5 today. Now, before we break down all of what happened today at New York Jets training camp practice number 5, first day with pads on, let me tell you about a couple of our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an app that delivers tickets and puts it into one spot from all over the internet to make it easier for you, the buyer. What makes SeatGeek so great is you know what type of deal you are getting on your ticket. Each ticket is labeled from 0 to 10. Green means good, yellow means okay, red means stay away. Plus, my viewers, use promo code Bubs on Sports for $20 off your purchase. Click the link in the description down below. That'll take you to the SeatGeek app to download the SeatGeek app. And when at checkout, use promo code Bubs on Sports for $20 off your purchase. You know at SeatGeek what type of deal you are getting, so you make the right decision when you buy your ticket to any event. This isn't just sports. This isn't just football. If you can buy a ticket for an event, SeatGeek has it. Concerts, plays, shows, etc. You name it, SeatGeek has it. Promo code Bubs on Sports for $20 off your purchase. Also, Huga House, also another proud partner of the podcast. You see me rocking my Huga House hat all the time on the show. If you want to get the hat I wear or any of the hats that QB1 Aaron Rodgers wears, this was Rodgers rolling into camp just last week with his Huga House hat. Shane Gillis, Shohei Ohtani, a ton of athletes, Tyler Conklin as well, a ton of athletes, celebrities, and myself, if you want to consider me a celebrity. Either way, a lot of people rock the Huga House vintage-inspired hats. Click the link in the description down below. That'll take you to the Huga House online store. They released 10 brand new hats about 2 weeks ago, but they're going fast. A lot of hats are going very, very fast. So if you want to get your hands on one of the hats, use promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase and get yourself some Huga House swag. Now for today's episode, now for day number 5 of New York Jets training camp. And the first 3 days, I think most of us could agree, it was pretty dominant by the offense. The offense dominated. The Garrett Wilson to Aaron Rodgers connection was on full display, and they were just in cruise control. And then Saturday, it felt like the tide turned a little bit. Last day of just helmets, last day of just T-shirts and shorts. And the defense, while I still thought the offense from an in-person perspective, I still thought the offense had a good day. You know, Rodgers had a touchdown, Lazard. He had a big 45, 50-yard play down the field to Garrett Wilson that very easily could have, well, Thursday that was the case, big play to Garrett Wilson. And then obviously he was still able to get Garrett Wilson involved on Saturday, was getting his tight ends involved. Like Saturday, despite the defense pushing back a little bit and despite the defense playing well, it wasn't a bad day for the offense. And I wouldn't necessarily say the defense was dominant on Saturday, even though it was a better day, much more competitive day from them. So it kind of felt like, okay, 3 days offense won. Saturday, it felt like it was kind of split. Both sides did some good things. But today, it was 100% the defense's day. And I don't even know if I would so much say today was, and look, there's going to be days where, and that's always the thing with training camp, that people have to pump the brakes on reacting to practices, because if the offense is dominating, that means then the defense is having a bad day. So You can't be all excited for the offense dominating, but then also panic about the defense having one bad day. And that's the same thing vice versa. The offense has been very productive for the first 4 days of practice. Today, coming off an off day, first day of pads, defense was flying around. Offense was struggling, hurting themselves a little bit. There was drops. There was penalties. There was sacks. There was bad snaps. There was a lot of bad things from the offense today, but it happens. The training camp is not going to be offense wins the day every single time. So credit to the defense. They won the day. But already you already see the reactions. Oh, terrible day from the offense. All this panicking like it's one bad day. It's going to be okay. The defense is allowed to win a day. It still is a positive thing when the defense has a good day. We're allowed to watch the defense dominate a little bit at a practice. But I would say this. I think the defense was very good today. I do think a lot of it, though, was the offense just flat out struggling. And we'll start with the offense kind of mix it all in. But, then we'll get into some of the, some of the plays and some of the catches and some of the guys that got involved. But we'll start up front on the offensive line because this has been a little bit of a concern so far in camp. And that is Joe Tippmann. His snaps have been off all camp. And it's definitely been something that has been noticeable and something that you got to watch for. You got to look out for the rest of camp. Really, the first 4 days, he had high snaps. His snaps are kind of all over the place. When I was there on Thursday, there was about 2 or 3 bad snaps. And then Saturday, there was another couple bad snaps. One of them was really bad where it was in the red zone. Rodgers had to jump up, grab it with his right hand, bring it down, settle it. At that point, Jermaine Johnson already got around the edge. Rodgers had to end up rolling out of the pocket, tried to fit it into Garrett Wilson, and misfired. If that snap was good, he probably would have had Garrett Wilson much earlier on the slant, as opposed to having to extend the play because of the bad snap, because of the pressure to his left, where he had to roll out and then try to force it in much tighter coverage in the red zone, or in the end zone, rather. So that was noticeable. And then today, it was also, again, very, very noticeable. At least a half a dozen bad snaps from Joe Tippmann. And this was something that he struggled with a little bit last year, was his snaps being a little bit all over the place. And so far in camp, he struggled. And he knows it. You could tell. Multiple times, even on Saturday, I remember it, he was working off to the side, was talking to Rodgers, trying to figure out, trying to get on the same page. And then today was working off to the side after practice, was snapping. And then while the second team was out there, was going through snaps. So it's clearly something he is going through. It's clearly something where he kind of has the yips in a way. It is always kind of, centers go through this at times where it's almost like a pitcher in baseball that loses his control, loses his command. They kind of get the yips. They kind of, lose confidence a little bit, get in their own head, and they've got to dial it back in. They've got to get back to the basics. That's the same thing Tippmann's going through right now. Look, it's the 5th day of training camp. It's July 29th. It's not time to panic. This is something he's going to work through. It's something him and Aaron Rodgers have been working at. It is a clear issue. Robert Saleh mentioned it. He's been very rusty. The snaps haven't been good. But a player of that talent, a player that is got so much potential, he will work through it. This isn't like this is some guy that's got a track record of being terrible with snaps and it's happening again. No, he's a young player that has an immense amount of talent. He's going to work through it, but it is something to keep an eye on because it has to be better. He was awful today, and he's been pretty bad the previous 4 days as well. And Aaron Rodgers is getting frustrated, and rightfully so. These bad snaps set off plays. And then it kind of trickles down to the receivers where then when, the receivers aren't getting the ball because Rodgers, the whole play gets messed up when it's a bad snap. So something Tippmann's got to work on, something Tippmann's got to get better with. And there was also a play too where Rodgers got stepped on, fell to the ground, and was clearly very heated. Somebody stepped on his foot. I don't know if it was, most of the reporters couldn't decipher whether or not it was John Simpson or Joe Tippmann, but it was one of the guards or Tippmann. Most likely it was either Simpson or Tippmann that stepped on his leg, which was kind of a scare a little bit for the Jets fans. I'm sure there was some VIP access today. So the Jets fans that were present today, probably a little bit of a scare in person to see Rodgers fall because we're just so scarred from the week 1 incident last year that anytime something happens, our heart's going to just like drop. But luckily he was fine. But the offense line, pretty bad day from that perspective of bad snaps from Tippmann, Simpson or Tippmann. One of them stepped on his foot. Rodgers was clearly frustrated, trying to work through things with Tippmann. Even before practice, they were working on snaps, both shotgun and under center. So you just hope it's something he can work through. And it's early in camp, right? You'd rather this happen early in camp now when it's still July rather than, with in the final week of camp where you're kind of scrambling at that point. So hopefully something he works through and hopefully something you can start to see progress in a different direction of those snaps, those arid snaps, those high snaps not happening, because today was probably the worst of them all. It seemed like there was 5, 6, 7 bad snaps today, which is not good at all. No other way to put it, but he'll work on it. And you have to have faith that a young player like that, who's got a ton of talent early in camp, he'll get it fixed. So that's the offensive line. That was one of the bigger stories with Tippmann. Now to the quarterbacks, and Rodgers threw his first pick of camp today. So it took 5 practices, but for the first time, a Rodgers pass landed into the arms of a defender, and it wasn't even his fault. The summer of Lazard has temporarily been put on hold after a great set of 4 practices. Pads come on, Lazard has a bad drop. First pass of practice, second play of team drills, Rodgers delivers a good throw to Lazard, goes right through his hands, goes into the air and into the hands of safety Chuck Clark. So Chuck Clark gets on the board with a pick. And Lazard, who has been very, very good, only 1 drop I recall from Lazard. At Thursday's practice, he had a drop. But other than that, he's been pretty clean, and Rodgers has got him involved a lot. He has scored 3 touchdowns. He had a touchdown on Saturday. He's been very, very good. This was his first, I think, really, really bad drop. It ends up in the defender's arms. So temporarily, the summer of Lazard gets put on hold after a really good first 4 practices. A tough one there for Lazard and a tough way to start off practice. Not Rodgers' fault. It's his receiver. He's got to catch that ball and kind of set practice off on a rough note for the offense. Some completions that Rodgers did have. Garrett Wilson down the sideline, beat DJ Reed again, had a nice move on him, turned DJ Reed around. So Garrett Wilson has had DJ Reed's number all practice, all camp so far. Not that DJ Reed's been very good against anybody else. It's just Garrett Wilson. Unfortunately for Reed, he's been on the other end of these highlights. But even with a bad day with the offense, Rodgers and Wilson found a way to fit in a really, really nice completion, a really, really nice pass and catch from the 2 of those guys who continue to just build up more and more chemistry between the 2. Rodgers had Conklin involved on an 8 to 10 yard route, quick pass, getting it to his tight end. Rodgers has done that a lot this year so far. And he also had a pass to Corley in the red zone. Now, Corley was quickly tackled, but trying to obviously get Corley a little bit involved. He was getting first team reps today. All in all, Rodgers finished 8 of 13. Look, for a bad day, 8 of 13 is not terrible. I mean, we've seen Jets practices with quarterbacks over the last for many years now that a bad day would be a lot worse than this. And there would be a lot of days where former Jets quarterback, Zach Wilson, let's say, a good day would be 8 of 13. So considering a bad day is 8 of 13 for Rodgers, tells you all you need to know about what the offense has been able to do through the first 4 practices, because 8 of 13 isn't even that terrible. It wasn't like he was 4 of 12 and 3 interceptions, which we've seen before. Jets fans believe, we all know what bad quarterback looks like. So even in a bad day, the stat line wasn't that awful for Rodgers, and the interception wasn't even his fault. Again, it felt like more of the pieces around Rodgers. There was drops. There was penalties. There was bad snaps. There was those type offensive linemen stepping on his foot. Like, it felt like a lot of the pieces around Rodgers were not really producing, not really doing their job today. Not so much Rodgers himself. Tyrod was able to get the ball to Corley. Also got a Tariq Cohen involved. So Cohen continues to put together a nice camp. And then Peasley also had a nice play to Irv Charles. Corley kind of rotating, got some of those second team reps with Tyrod, and then, of course, was also getting some first team reps. So any reps that he can get is definitely positive for him. As for the running backs might have been the only bright spot, other than Garrett Wilson with that one catch. The running backs might have been the only bright spot for the Jets offense today, really. Braylon Allen was excellent today. He had a couple really, really nice downhill physical runs, lower his shoulder, tough to bring down, big chunk yards, showing off the ability to get to the second level and show off some of his speed. And I said that on Saturday. Braylon Allen's a guy that I couldn't wait to see with pads on because, and all these running backs, to be honest, because the running backs, it's really tough to tell how they are with no pads on, what the runs look like with no pads on, because they're not tackling guys and they're not really hitting them. They're kind of just touching them and kind of wrapping them up slightly. And then, but they continue to run. They'll finish out their runs. So every run from a running back with no pads on seems like a 10, 15-yard run, which simply isn't the case. So with pads on, it's much easier to evaluate the running backs. And Braylon Allen had a great day. He had a big run where he actually trucked Tony Adams. So completely, the 6'1" monster at running back just took down Tony Adams, ran right through him. So that was good to see. His downhill running style, that physical style as an RB2 was on full display. And this guy is a lock as RB2 alongside Breece. And Breece actually got practice started. The first run, the first play of the day was a run to Breece, and it was good. Ruckert had a key block, opened up a lane for Breece, got to the second level. So early on, from a run game perspective and all day, the Jets' run game was working well, just not so much the passing game and some of the other stuff. Receivers, like I said, Garrett Wilson, impressed again, even despite the offense struggling. Lined up in the slot a little bit. So he's been lining up in the slot a lot, and I think that's something that the Jets are trying to do a little bit more of to really get him with those mismatches in the slot. Can really open things up for the offense if he potentially gets some slot reps even in the games. Corley got a little bit more involved, got some reps with the first team, which was good. And Lazard, bad day. Actually, after that drop that went into resulted in the interception, he was taken out and replaced by Malik Taylor. So about as bad as the day as you could get for Lazard after what has been an impressive 4 days. So we'll see how Lazard bounces back. Tight ends, Ruckert left practice and then came back. So doesn't seem like anything major there. Probably got a little banged up, wind knocked out of him, something, ended up coming back and ended up still participating in team drills. So doesn't seem like anything major there. And then Conklin had the one reception from Rodgers, and that was pretty much it. Again, passing standpoint, not a whole lot today. So that's the offense, not a whole lot. Definitely their least impressive day of camp. You go to the defense, and look, they took advantage of the offense's mistakes, and they were getting after the quarterback, all of them. They were getting after Rodgers. They were getting off the offensive line. They were capitalizing on some of the offensive line's penalties, some of the miscommunications, some of the sacks, some of the mistakes. Some of the stuff that they were hurting themselves, the defense was taking advantage of. Javon Kinlaw had a sack against Rodgers. Sammy Guavon was also involved on that play. So that was good to see Kinlaw get involved. Tanzel Smart had a sack against Tyrod to end practice. Brady McGregor, the UDFA out of Michigan, had a sack. His kind of first sighting of camp. Eric Watts has done some good things. Tack McKinley, of course, has been great. The other underrated UDFA pass rusher, not that McKinley's UDFA, but those guys that are kind of fighting for one of the final edge spots. McGregor was kind of the first sighting of him today with a sack as well. So there was like 3-4 sacks today, all throughout, all different first, second, third team on Rodgers, Tyrod, stuff like that. So the defensive line was all over the place, and Kinlaw had a pretty good day as well. Good to see him get involved. And Leki Fotu as well had another play that he blew up. Fotu's had a pretty good camp. First 2 days of practice, he blew up a couple run plays. I would say probably more of a quieter practice on Friday and Saturday, but today blew up a couple plays as well. So Fotu quietly here has put together a nice training camp for the New York Jets up front in the trenches. So far seems to be a nice addition to the defensive line. So far seems to be a guy that can clog running lanes, get to the quarterback a little bit, just be a solid presence there in the interior. So will be good to keep an eye on him the rest of camp to see how he continues to perform here in his first year with the Jets. coming in as a free agent. But those were most of your defensive line takeaways. Just sacks everywhere, getting pressure. One play, actually, Rodgers had a nice run. He had like a 10-yard run to pick up a first down to extend the drive the field period. But even that, forcing Rodgers out of the pocket, causing some of those pocket breakdowns, some of those bad snaps, taking advantage of those, holding the edges, those type of things. The defensive line had a pretty good day from that perspective. As for the linebackers, Jamien Sherwood continues to put together a really nice camp from a speed perspective. Sideline to sideline speed has been very present. I noticed it on Saturday, and again today you heard from some of the reporters. He's been flying all over the place, just that perfect complement to Quincy Williams and CJ Mosley. Of course, you're one of the arguably the best linebacker tandem in the NFL, but Sherwood has shown off a lot of things, and I think you've got to be pretty excited for Jamien Sherwood entering his fourth season as just that speed guy, that guy that can just a good, reliable third option behind Mosley and Sherwood and guys like that. Like I said, Sammy Guavon was also involved in one of that plays. So he was a linebacker. Jamien Sherwood showing off some of his speed. Good day for the linebackers. Quincy Williams had a sack on Rodgers, a would-be sack on Rodgers. So Quincy Williams got on the board today. He's been flying around. He got on the board this afternoon. It's tough to gauge the linebackers sometimes when there is no pads because you really can't tell tackles for loss. Plays across the middle, they're not actually bringing guys down because, it's no pads. So with pads on, you can kind of get a better gauge of what the linebackers are doing. And Quincy Williams had a good day today, had a sack on Rodgers. Zaire Barnes had a tackle for loss. So this might have been the best day for the linebackers in camp so far. Tons of guys getting involved. Guavon, Sherwood, Williams, Barnes, starters, backups, all those guys. Really everyone getting the action today from the linebackers position. And then as for the corners and safeties, Jarek Bernard-Converse had a pass breakup. Didn't see who he was against. I couldn't find that, but he had a pass breakup. So the safety turned corner got involved there. And Chuck Clark, also interception this afternoon. That was the one that went through Lazard's hands and into Chuck Clark's arms. So the first interception against Aaron Rodgers, while it's not his fault, it is still an interception. And it goes to Chuck Clark. And Chuck Clark continuing to show that versatility. Can play the box, play safe, and anywhere. Linebacker, you want him to play defensive line, he's gotten that as well. He can do a little bit of everything. Really excited to see what Chuck Clark can bring to the table this year for this Jets team after what was such an unfortunate injury last year in OTAs, the torn ACL, really an entire calendar year now. He's back. So exciting to see what Chuck Clark can do, and good to see him get on the board with a pick. So that is Jets training camp day 5 recap. Again, not a ton from an offensive perspective, but the defense won the day, and you've got to give them credit. They are going to win days. It's going to be okay. I would say so far, if I had to guess what the record is, I would say offense has won 3 days. There's probably been one tie. You could probably maybe say Saturday was a tie, although they made defense do push-ups on Saturday. So I guess technically the offense won the day, but you could kind of give it a tie because I don't think either side ran away with it. And today was 100% defense. So kind of 3-1-1 in a way. 3 offense, 1 tie, 1 goes to the defense, 5 days into camp. And tomorrow I will be back out there at One Jets Drive, fired up for another practice, fired up to see the first practice or second practice in pads. First that I'll see obviously this year with the first 2 no pads. So tomorrow should be a lot of fun. We will see, can the defense continue this momentum? 2 good days in a row, or I guess not really in a row because he had the off day, but you get the point. 2 good practices in a row. Can they come out tomorrow, have another good day, or will the offense, second day of pads, get today figured out and get on the same page tomorrow? Tippmann will continue to be a big watching point, seeing what those snaps look like. Very important that he gets those things calmed down. And we will have all your takeaways, in-person takeaways tomorrow, shortly after practice. So as always, I appreciate all of the support. The support has been great recently, and I can't thank you all enough for tuning into all these episodes If you haven't checked it already, I did a Jets player preview this morning. Funny enough, we're talking on Tittman. I did it on Joe Tittman and Tony Adams. So that is this morning. So this is the second episode of the day. I appreciate all the support. We got episodes cranking out all throughout the rest of the week. So stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. I will be back here tomorrow with in-person takeaways from One Jets Drive, New York Jets training camp day number 6. And until then, JETS, 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 Jets.